What's up, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the New Reality Network podcast, a podcast about VR in VR. Do we like that for a tagline?
We do.
We do. Stick it on the back of the box, that's what I say. That's what sums up the podcast about VR in VR. I'm one of your hosts, Thomas Lynch, and I'm joined by Mr. VR himself, Michael Smith.
Hello.
How are we doing, Mike?
Yeah, good. I'm still not sure about this Mr. VR tag, but you know.
I'm telling you, it's going to stick. We're going to plaster it all over the website. Under your About Me, it's just going to say Mr. VR.
Fair enough.
That's all
can't
people
argue
need to
with
know.
free PR.
Indeed. And over here, we have the events extraordinaire, Berit Küüt. How are we doing?
Doing good.
How do you feel about that name?
It's going viral.
Not sure about it, but like Mike.
I love it.
Which name? Her real name or events extraordinaire?
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I should maybe distinguish that. The events extraordinaire. So you like that one?
I do.
Cool. It's going to go viral, apparently.
It will.
Trending on Twitter.
Yeah, well, you know, as a journalist, that's our job.
Indeed. Yeah, so as I say, this is the first episode of the New Reality Network podcast, a podcast where we're going to talk about everything VR and 360 video. So we're going to bring a topic of discussion to each episode, whether that be a news story or particular interest about VR, whatever it might be. And we're going to discuss it for about 10 to 15 minutes, see how it goes. But before we jump into this week's topic,
Don't forget we've got guests coming on future episodes.
we do, yes, as a tease there for upcoming episodes, we have a few guests lined up, so hopefully they'll still be on board for that. But we're not going to say who.
It's a surprise.
Just to keep the suspense and the tension there. So yeah, I thought we'd kick off this first episode with a kind of brief about me section about us all. A few minutes just to kick things off, introduce the team, as it were. So I'll kick things off. All you need to know about me, really, is I'm a nerd, I'm a geek, I like games, movies, TV. I have an unhealthy obsession with a certain Cape Crusader. I'm studying journalism, practice journalism on a probably daily basis, write for certain websites, want to get into that sort of industry. And that's me, basically.
You forgot to add that you're available for hire.
I am available for hire, yes. Please hire me.
We all are.
In about 4 or 5 months, I don't know why I'm looking there at a watch, in about 4 or 5 months, I'm probably going to be unemployed. So if you need anybody that can do all those things, that likes talking about nerdy stuff, then hit me up.
Way to market yourself. So.
I know, right? Yeah, that's great PR speak right there. What about yourself, Mike? Introduce yourself to the people.
I'm Michael Smith.
And that's it. Okay, good show, folks.
You said keep it brief, but I'm not going to ramble too much. Hopefully not. I'll get Tom to keep me in check with this, but I am a journalist. I guess you could class me as a multimedia journalist.
Yeah.
So I mess around with apps and technology and VR and 360 and all that kind of stuff. I like video games, but the thing that interests me most is fandoms and cultures. I like getting to understand how things go from being so small to like on a grand scale, and the kind of journeys that are in between that. And in my free time, I sit on the board of a community interest company, and I do consulting for a 360-degree company, and I am also available for hire.
Nice. There seems to be a running theme here. What about you, Berit? Are you available for hire?
Of course I am.
Put it in context, dude.
Good point. Oh, come on. Don't spiral this out of control. Introduce yourself, Berit.
Well, I'm very unlike those two. I'm in events, and I'm not a nerd. I'm not into games or anything like that.
Man.
I'm that type of person who likes to stand behind the scenes, behind the camera, and not in front of a microphone.
Sure.
But you do love photography, right?
True, and that's behind the camera as well.
That's a good point, yeah. Cool, so we'll kick things off with the topic of the show, which is what makes VR so special? That's the question I'm going to pitch to you guys. Why are we ourselves, in terms of New Reality Network, doubling down on VR? But why is it this new thing that people should be excited about? Why are people in the media kind of doubling down on it and trying to kind of utilise it and come to terms with it and get to grips with it? So I'll kick things off to you, Mike.
Do you want to go first?
Or not?
Well, wings.
Well, to be fair, when it comes to VR and everything, then it's the chance to be everywhere you want, escape, get your mind off things, but put yourself in a completely different world.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's true. For me as well, it's that extra level of escapism. There's been a few gimmicks and stuff that crop up in the industry over the years, like 3D and stuff, but this is the first one I've seen that is kind of changing the game fundamentally.
Just going to jump in there. I was going to
Sure.
say 3D hasn't gone away. It's still.
It will go away though. I stand by that as a gimmick. Nobody likes 3D.
Everyone likes 3D.
Yeah. Cinemas are doing quite well out of it, IMAX and all that. But actually, that ties into where we start talking about VR actually, because 3D is kind of an important mechanism within that.
Sure.
And stereoscopic and the sense of depth that VR gives you. So, 3D. As a consumer gimmick is kind of as it says, a consumer gimmick, but actually it's kind of led to taking this next step into the VR realm. So,
sure.
But yeah, it's interesting because like I'll try and keep this as brief as possible, but
you can't.
Everybody's talking about this sense of escape, and actually that's the general consensus people get with VR experiences, but it's actually the way around. It's about more. It's more about the narrative and immersing people in that narrative. Certainly from our background in journalism, for example, you have distractions and stuff such as, say, you're watching the news on TV, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You have a disconnect, and you can kind of remove yourself from that. And you could technically class that as escapism, or when you're playing a video game, but having the ability actually to then look through the eyes where you're not distracted and you kind of get the full sense of scale of what's going on around you, being able to participate in that and not just be an active passenger. That's really what VR is all about. It's about being as immersive as possible, and we've seen examples of that from places like Frontline and stuff where they've gone on journeys and you've been able to look around and feel, and the 3D audio effects, it all just kind of combines together for this VR package. So I don't know if I would say it's escapism, but that just highlights the challenge that the media faces about how VR is branded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess that's a good jumping off point in terms of why we started New Reality Network. I remember we had a conversation very early on, probably about February last year maybe, talking about this, and we each wanted to get involved with VR and stuff in our own way. You wanted to look at more broadcasts and stuff, I wanted to look at podcasts. And then we eventually came together and thought, okay, this is something we want to do. But I initially thought, when I saw you experimenting with 360 and VR initially, I thought this is like some next level stuff. I'm going to have no clue how to put any of this together. But when you actually sat me down and kind of showed me how to do it and how to put it all together, it's relatively...
That's why we have Mike. He's the tech geek.
Exactly.
We have the ideas. He's making sure it's getting done.
He's the realist, puts it all together and makes it happen. But yeah, I kind of realised how relatively straightforward it was, and how it's it's not this the DaVinci Code, for example, trying to create the DaVinci Code. But
it's not far off.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but it's one of those things. Once one person cracks the DaVinci Code, everybody knows how to do it.
Exactly, yeah. So that's what we're going to try and hopefully do here with the New Reality Network, is kind of show you why you should be excited about VR. And why you should be consuming this content and stuff, but also kind of showing you how to create the content yourselves, whether that be broadcasts and podcasts and stuff that we're doing, or putting together your own sort of videos and images and photographs, that sort of thing. So newrealitynetwork.com.
If you're watching this in 360, you'll be able to see it on the monitor. But yeah, it's an important point you mentioned there, and I think when we started looking at this, we experimented with. I know certainly from my perspective, I experimented initially with that question of how can I make VR on a phone. Mm-hmm. Without having to sit there and learn 50 different coding languages. And actually it turned out pretty easy. You can do it through Google Maps. That was the first bit of VR I ever created, but...
I do remember that.
But for me, sort of getting into it and not wanting to be kind of learning all the code and stuff, the important thing was realising that not only is the media not really taking full advantage of this technology, but we're not encouraging grassroots to do that either. 100%. The next generation media workers are going to come through the ranks, and this thing is spiraling into a massive growth industry. I mean, we've got some notes here, and some of the statistics are talking about $5.2 billion of revenue by 2018.
Yeah,
and that's not even taking into account the actual real figure for investment across the board to make sure that this is a cross-industry system is actually about $1 trillion. Mm-hmm. So the revenue is growing massively,
sure,
but the amount of investment going into it for people like media workers to be trained to incorporate this into things like the NASDAQ, and being able to do data and stuff like that in real time and experiences, such as events and stuff, it's massive. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's only a matter of time. You say like pumping money into, training people to do this stuff. It's only going to be a matter of time, and it's probably still happening now. To be fair, that you're going to see job applications and stuff, and some of the key responsibilities are going to be, hey, we need you to create 360 and VR stuff, much like it was social media back in the day, and some companies are still looking for people to who are proficient in social media, know how all that works.
Yeah, I mean, even the Financial Times in the recent kind of internship adverts have included that. What's interesting when you say about the social media companies as well is that I haven't really seen too many people take advantage of even just a basic 360, and that goes for professional social media companies.
Sure.
Which is odd considering how much Facebook's pushing the technology, as is Google.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's interesting.
So yeah, it's only going to be a matter of time before this is, if you want to kind of stand out and increase your kind of chances in this very competitive space, then knowing how to create this sort of stuff and will be a kind of a huge kind of arrow in your quiver sort of thing.
Yeah. That's our advantage doing all of that. We're already one step ahead from everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. So we kind of want to put you in that position as well, but also show you why you should be excited about this content and stuff, because it's very difficult to sell VR by kind of talking about it. It's only until you
have to experience
put on a headset and you experience it yourself, then you go, okay, wow, this is something else.
Yeah, and I think the important thing here as well is just remembering, there are lots of kind of areas in the media where people are kind of going into, and there's kind of formats and there's rules and there's regulations about how you do certain things. The VR industry is unknown. There's no kind of templates. I mean, even if you studied anything like television and radio, that pretty much everything's already been done, and that even if you come with a new idea, you're following a format or a template. VR doesn't have that, and that in itself should be a massive draw for people to get involved with it, because
you make your own rules.
Yeah, exactly.
In a way, yeah.
You're making your own rules for the content you're doing, and it's really imaginative in that sense that you're effectively changing reality to a certain degree, and that gives you a fantastic new way to kind of develop your own kind of narrative techniques, which for us in journalism is massive.
Yeah. And you're indeed making a new reality.
Yeah.
There's that plug there once again. Yeah, so I think we could talk, at length about why we are kind of interested in VR and trying to, if not sounding too biased, trying to convince you why you should be interested in it as well. But we'll kind of wrap things up here, conscious a bit of time. So thank you guys for checking out this first episode of the New Reality Network podcast. If you enjoyed it, then please subscribe to us on all the various podcast services. We're on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/New Reality Network, or on iTunes as well. Just search for New Reality Network. But if you want to view the 360-degree version, then that'll be on our YouTube channel, which isn't youtube.com/New Reality Network, because we don't have enough subscribers or anything yet to have that amazing custom URL.
So get subscribing so we can have a custom URL.
Exactly. But all the links as well can be found on newrealitynetwork.com, so head over there and see all the blog posts and tutorials and all that sort of stuff.
Social media as well.
Social media, yeah, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Twitter is New Reality Net, Facebook is New Reality Network, and Instagram is New Reality Network.
Yeah, and our Facebook page actually has links to all the stuff, so you can go on there and even if you don't have Instagram or Twitter, you'll be able to see the things we're tweeting. So
100%. A lot of behind the scenes stuff as well. Yeah, good old time.
Yeah, yeah.
Indeed.
I was going to add something there, and I was like, no.
Well, guys, thank you for your time, and until the next one, take it easy.